everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for the new episode today. I'm Hannah, a training specialist at OBN.
I'm Michaela. I'm a training specialist also at OBN.
And we're joined with Lauren Frost, a secretary at OBN. We're so thrilled to have her on the show. She's going to talk a little bit about her life experience and also her time at OBN, as well as a contestant from Miss Oklahoma.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, like Hannah said, I am the executive assistant for the deputy director of OBN, Brian Serber. I actually started this job in January, so relatively new, which has been a really fun experience for me, just learning how the culture works and honestly, law enforcement in general. I knew very little walking into this about what this world kind of looked like, and so my eyes have been peeled back, and I'm so excited to share this experience not only on this platform, but also in June on the Miss Oklahoma stage.
That is so exciting. What's the date for the Miss Oklahoma competition?
So I will be competing at the River Spirit Casino in Tulsa the first full week of June. So it's June 2nd through the 8th. We never get to see the sunlight during that time. We live in the hotel. We compete in the hotel, and it's a really fun experience. And a lot of people, they don't know a lot about the Miss Oklahoma organization, but it's the leading scholarship provider for women. So I graduated debt-free from college because of Miss Oklahoma and the scholarship money that I won through that, and seek to go to law school one day. So I want to keep competing in order to pay for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know plenty of people in my at my university too who had similar reasons for competing.
Yes.
They're amazing.
OCU always has incredibly talented women.
Very Miss Oklahoma based.
Yes. So for Miss Oklahoma, you have a 10-minute interview with 7 strangers. I mean, and it's just, they're pushing questions left and right. It could be about you. It could be about your political beliefs. It could be about how you would handle a certain situation. So you kind of have to be able to think on your feet. And that's really what they focus on in Miss Oklahoma is, I mean, once you win Miss Oklahoma, you compete for Miss America. So that title in and of itself, you're going to come across people that have different opinions than you, different beliefs than you. And you have to be able to have respectful conversations with everybody, even if you don't agree with them. So I really like this organization because it values women's minds and their voices. And now getting to talk, so one of the things that you have as a Miss Oklahoma contestant is a community service initiative. Mine's adoption, because I was adopted as an infant. So I have felt a very strong passion since a young age to give back to the children who are still waiting in foster care for a forever family. I don't think we truly understand the severity of kids that grow up without having a family and a support system and what that looks like for them after they age out of foster care. Because statistically speaking, their lives normally don't get better from that point. They're usually faced with a lot of adversity that sets them back or maybe ends them up in prison, which is just should break all of our hearts and want us to step up and do something about it. And what's so interesting is that having that platform, there is another little part of my resume fact sheet as a Miss Oklahoma contestant that talks about, other than your CSI, your community service initiative, what do you think will impact your generation the most? And it's been really awesome working for OBN because my answer now is about fentanyl, because I've seen firsthand here the effect that it's having on my generation, but the publicity or the knowledge of people my age on this topic is so small, even though
absolutely.
It's one of the most threatening epidemics that have happened in a very long time. And when talking to younger girls that I coach or get to mentor, their knowledge of it is so small because they think it's such a far-off thing. But in reality, it's here. The fentanyl epidemic is here. It's in front of us, and it's up to us to make sure that we're educating our individuals and our younger generation on how to approach the situation.
Yeah, and nowadays in the schools, when we go do these presentations, even the staff, that's all they ask for now is fentanyl presentations. What's going on? How do we prevent our students from getting a hold of this stuff? How do we handle the situation? And it's killing a lot of our youth, and it's getting really scary because most of them don't even know what they're getting. It's just them simply on social media doing whatever, like, you know, teens do, and they end up getting access to something that they don't know what's in it.
Right, absolutely. One of the ladies that I work with through coaching for Miss Oklahoma, her grandson passed away from fentanyl, and he had no history of being a drug addict. He was in a, I think he was eating dinner one night and he said he had a headache, and his friend said, hey, this will make you feel better. He really didn't background check what it was. He trusted his friend. Regardless of if his friend knew or not what it was, or if his friend had just obtained it somehow, that pill ultimately killed that man just one time. Someone with no history of being a drug addict. And so like you're saying, like, schools asking for that, I mean, that should be a message in of itself. And what's cool about Miss Oklahoma is that she is booked solid, just like OBN is during Red Ribbon Week. And that week is so important to get into schools. And it would be so cool to be Miss Oklahoma and get to partner with OBN moving forward to make sure that we're also providing education outside of that week, and people of Oklahoma know it's available to them for free. Free, people. Did you hear that? OBN does educationals for free. Contact Michaela.
It's true.
Hit her up.
The training specialists would love to come to presentations, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Your first one is always so scary, but then you learn so much. Like, as you keep doing it, you learn so much more information. And then just seeing how those kids really engage with you, it warms my heart.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it makes me happy. Honestly, I got a chance of doing I think it was like a 2 to 3 day tour thing with an organization called Family Supporting Families. And it literally just talked about, women having their own experiences with losing their kids or family members to fentanyl overdose. And it had me tearing up for a second because, my presentation, OBN side of fentanyl, how it affects kids, how it affects everyone. And then you hear their personal stories. I've never experienced anything like that. And just hearing it from their side, it's like, wow. You see all the pictures lined up of all the people that have lost their lives. Young, old, it doesn't matter. It's crazy how it's making such a big impact. And it's like, now you just gotta, put forth that effort to make sure people are aware of what's really going on. It's not just, just a drug addiction or, just a pill that caused someone to, act crazy. It's a lot more that goes into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's cool is that being here in the time that I have since January, and fun fact, Hannah and I started on the same day, so we have been here only a couple of months. But I think with that comes such a sweet perspective because Michaela, Hannah, and I are on the younger side of the individuals at OBN. And what's really cool is that Director Anderson is giving us a voice to connect with the younger generations. He wants OBN to connect with the community, and he wants us to have a voice in this, even if we just started 4 months ago. Yeah. And what's so cool is that my eyes have been peeled back to, it's not just law enforcement. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I think we forget that they're actual people, and there's actual stories, and there's reasons why we're combating certain things, because these men and women that work here have seen firsthand what is happening in Oklahoma. And so I think my heart has just softened to be more sensitive towards what law enforcement is actually doing in a culture that really right now doesn't want to dive into it. But I really, really think we should press into why law enforcement is so important right now, and specifically what OBN is doing.
I've grew up with a dad being in law enforcement, so I know what it's like having to constantly defend law enforcement officers, and all the stuff that was been going on. It's more, they're real people. They have issues too. There's stuff that goes on that people don't know about. So having to constantly defend that, and then see my dad constantly have to worry about him and what he does, it's like, for us to have younger people, it's not just me. We have so many coming in, and y'all can actually see it too. It's amazing. Because I'm like, okay, now I'm not alone. I have other people that can vouch. It's more to it. It's a lot more that people don't see that goes on behind the scenes. Yeah. And it's crazy. But our agents and, everybody in our agency deals with quite a bit. So it's neat.
It is cool. And I don't know if you guys know this, but what's so cool is Miss Oklahoma 2009, Taylor Treat, actually had a partnership with OBN when she was Miss Oklahoma. Wow. And what's so cool is that it's like my second day on the job. I'm walking down the hallway, and if you've ever been to the headquarters, there's a lot of pictures that are lining the hallway. And I look to my left, and there's a picture of Taylor Treat and all the Miss Oklahoma girls that competed that year wearing OBN t-shirts. And I thought that was so cool because for me walking in, I'm like, oh man, I feel like I'm like the first ever to kind of make this connection. But what that showed me is that, the importance of, Miss Oklahoma is an advocate and she serves her community. And so that connection already had been made of a public speaker in Oklahoma being combined with OBN because they recognize the severity of making sure Oklahomans are drug safe. And so seeing that was really inspiring for me to realize that, when I compete in a month, this goes way beyond me. This is years and years of serving Oklahoma. And OBN is an incredible organization and agency that wants to pour into Oklahoma. They don't just do their stuff and move on. Michaela's job is such an example of this. She goes into schools, she goes into colleges, she goes into communities and talks about the importance of your life and what drugs can do to that, and really informs those kids to make wise decisions as they grow up. And I think there's such a beautiful partnership that could happen with Miss Oklahoma and OBN, and has happened in the past. And I think that's proof that we're doing so much more than people realize.
And of course, you're not going to reach everyone. We always encounter going to schools and we have some kids that are already like, I know everything. Or it's just like, I'm really not worried about it. Because at that point, kids are starting at such a young age with drugs in general. So at that point, you can start at middle school age, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And by that point, they've already started down that path. So I only try to do the best I can to give them all the information they need to let them know it's not too late for you to turn a different way.
That's really good.
Don't mess your life up, because you're going to see it as you get older. You're going to take that other path. Yes, you're going to lose some friends, but over time, it's worth it when you get older. And those friends that were trying to push you to do the wrong thing that are still doing wrong are looking like, dang, maybe I should have did what you did. Yeah, because I see that a lot, especially where I come from. It's sad because I had a lot of great friends in high school that just made the wrong choice. But I mean, you can only do so much after a while.
Yeah.
Well, so if you don't mind me asking, I'm just interested. You mentioned Miss Oklahoma providing scholarships and how you're very interested in it and you love it because it has such an impact in the community. But how did you actually officially get started in Miss Oklahoma?
Good question. So I grew up as a clogger. Okay, so if you don't know what that is, just think of tap, but it's different. Okay, so it originated in the Kentucky mountains, so mountain dancing. Oftentimes we used to dance to this song called The Chicken Plucker, if that tells you anything.
Love it.
I do a more contemporary side of it, but I still love the traditional side of clogging. So I started doing it when I was 5, it's such a random thing to get started in, but done it since I was 5 until now. And so I fell in love with it very quickly. It made sense in my head.
So you're a pro.
Yeah, I love it.
Look, can you go ahead and just
Do you want to do
I
it
can
now?
do
a
it.
demonstration?
Yeah. Do you guys want to hear it? I'm just kidding. You can look me up on YouTube. There's videos of me clogging on there.
Really? I need that. I'm gonna look that up now.
We are.
Oh, yeah. I love it so much. So I teach it now. But anyway, so started clogging, loved it, would compete in these little talent shows at different towns. I remember I competed in Wilburton. And the cash prize is $500. I was a 12-year-old.
Oh, well, you're rich.
I know. I clogged on the pavement in the middle of a street downtown and won. And I was like, man, that's pretty fun. So I would dance in Branson. I've opened for the Dolly Parton Dixie Stampede in Branson.
Really? That's fun.
Yeah. Branson, they love some cloggers. They do. They love that.
Look, I might need a private lesson.
Yeah, come on. Come on down.
I wish I had kept dancing because I actually was an Irish dancer, which is
Hey,
really
I've done that
similar.
too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We used to compete in phase. Went to
Yeah.
Little Rock, Arkansas. Shout out.
That's it. Come on.
And I was known
Irish.
for my light jigs. It was obviously amazing.
Light jigs.
I don't dance, so
Michaela said no comment.
yeah, I don't dance. That's y'all.
Well, unfortunately, I quit. So props to
That's so
anyone who
funny.
stays with it. I played
just-
volleyball.
I just loved it. It was just my thing. But I also didn't do any other sports or participate in really anything outside of leadership clubs in school because I just wanted to dance after school.
That's so amazing.
So Miss Oklahoma, the thing that really sets them apart from a lot of others, well, the Miss America organization really is what it all comes down to. They make the rules, and one of the things that they have is a talent portion. And that's kind of what Miss America and Miss Oklahoma are known for, is this talent portion. So I had a friend that competed in the teen program. So the Miss is 18 to 28. The teens are going to be those like 13 to 17-year-olds. And so it's really fun because you're all like going through awkward stages together. So I was 14, and a friend was like, you get to dance on stage. You should totally do it. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, I was not ready for 7 people to ask me questions about things that I had no idea. And so I interviewed and cried. And it was so scary because they asked me at 14 years old if I thought the DHS system was broke or not. I had no idea what DHS was. I just wanted to clog on the stage, and so I did not place and hated it and cried, and I was like, don't want to do it again. Well, I went and watched the state pageant that year and was like, you know what? I just want to give it one more try. These girls are so inspiring. They're talking on stage. They're dancing on stage. They're singing. I want to do that. And I came back, and it took me 12 pageants to win. So I competed in 12 local titles before I won the title of Miss Collinsville's teen. And that kind of started the journey. And I will tell you, it was rough. I mean, it is not normal to walk into a room and be prepared for any question that might be asked, to answer it in a genuine and real and conversational way. Those are skills that have to be taught. Very rarely is someone gifted in that. So I had to work hard to be comfortable on a stage, to be comfortable around strangers. But as a 14, 15, 16-year-old, those skills were necessary. So I knew that I needed to keep pushing myself until it wasn't scary. And I truly believe that opportunity provided me the availability to apply for the President Leadership Scholarship at Northeastern State University to get into that. I got that scholarship, went on to hold many leadership positions at NSU during my college time, was the captain of the pom team there. And so I think that experience with pageants truly made Lauren Frost figure out who she was in a faster time frame and realize that communicating with people is the number one thing that we all should figure out how to do. And that public speaking, it's like the number one scariest thing for everybody, but it's the thing that's the most important in this world. Oftentimes, if you want your voice to be heard, you have to be sure that you're communicating, as vulnerable and to the point as possible to make sure your message is clear. Mm-hmm. And so I really put time into making sure I was doing that to prepare me for the future. And when I got into the Miss side of it, the conversations just get so much deeper and meaningful, and you get into real political issues, and you get to really express what direction you think Oklahoma should go in, honestly. And I think that people don't realize the impact that Miss Oklahoma can make and that the organization can make on young women really trying to build their career. Because not only are you winning scholarship money and learning how to talk in a public setting, you are also making connections with people. Because a lot of those judges that judge you are attorneys, news anchors, celebrities, those kind of people that will remember you and remember your boldness and really help you to make those connections. So I cannot recommend it enough. Even if you don't think you're the type, there is a place for everybody, specifically in Miss Oklahoma. I have friends that are more on the tomboy side of it, reserved. They play basketball, like they love to wear sweatpants and big t-shirts, and I'm right there with you. There is not a certain type of look or person that they go for at Miss Oklahoma. They're looking for a woman who can represent all, and a woman who can speak for all and pass the microphone to those who deserve to speak. So that's kind of how I got started and why I continue to keep going.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think I made it cry.
Good.
We're over here at all.
my
I'll get you a
gosh.
tissue. It's the truth. I just love it so much. I think that just like you're talking about law enforcement, if we have to challenge people, specifically in Oklahoma, but also all over, to dig deep into why you believe the things you believe.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we create these stereotypes in our head without even meaning to, and we don't even know what's true about these organizations or what they're actually doing. So if you are listening to this, I challenge you to really look into the things that you've already made your mind up about, and really, really challenge yourself. Why did you make that decision to feel that way? Was it based upon truth, or was it just based upon kind of what you
heard on the news?
Right, or something you assumed. Yeah, because I think law enforcement and pageants, I mean, look closely and you can see what they're doing, truly, behind the scenes, how they're impacting the community around them.
Yeah. You just have to find those people that are open to conversations. Of course, you're not going to always agree, but I mean, you guys can at least hear each other out.
Yeah.
Get an understanding of why they feel the way that they do. Which pageants, like I said, the way you talk about it, the little Rudy Boot pageants I did as a kid, I'm like,
You did them too?
oh yeah. But I was like in elementary school, you know, and younger. So like my mom just kind of put me in them to give me something to do.
Yeah, just to get like that stage presence.
Yeah,
that
and
fun.
I mean, I'm thankful for it.
Right.
Because I speak up for myself, and it's like I used to be terrified of speaking. Terrified. And I thank God for, her name is Miss Johnson. That woman had me doing speeches, and you know, I did the Martin Luther King speech as a 12-year-old, word for word, and it's crazy because it's not a short speech to do. Yeah, so it's like me doing that without even messing up, just from months of practice. It's like, wow. So pageants do a lot. They help with a lot of different things. So hey, I respect it. Anybody in pageants, I'm like, it's not easy.
No,
you guys go through a lot. So it's you know, it's amazing what they can actually do for you later on in life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And what's really cool is that if you meet, so there's 42 girls competing this year for the title of Miss Oklahoma. They're from all over Oklahoma. And what's really, really awesome, and I love that you mentioned, is all of these girls are very open-minded, but they also know their opinions, and I respect them for that. And we do something called green light thinking, which is we had a contestants meeting a couple months ago for all the girls that are competing, just like as a get to know you, pick up your paperwork, this is what you have to do. And we did green light thinking. So a hot topic would pop up on the screen behind you, and you would say the first thing that comes to mind. And what's really awesome is that, you know, but yeah, exactly. So normal people would be like, oh gosh, right?
Yeah.
But I experienced 42 women not solely agreeing on everything, but respecting opinions. Because what's awesome is that each one of us have grown up so differently, and it shapes the way that we think about the world. But it's always so beautiful to be challenged and open-minded about your opinion being changed. I think it's important to have strong beliefs, but also, like I said, green light thinking, be open and respectful for what someone else has to say. And in that environment, I see that all the time. Those women are so brave, and they're so confident, and they're so sure of themselves, but they're also so respectful of everybody else that has a different opinion, because, you know, we've all grown up so different. So how can you compare, you know?
I'm curious too. So with you being the deputy director secretary, and then you having to balance, you know, all your stuff with your pageants and everything, how do you balance that? Do you ever get overwhelmed, or like, because I can only imagine like you just having so much to do.
Yeah, I will say, so currently I hold the title of Miss Bricktown. So I should have explained this. Oh yeah, I love it. Love Bricktown. I actually live there too. It's a great place. But in order to compete at a state level, you have to win a local title. So you have to represent like Tulsa, Oklahoma City, like some kind of other place to get in to compete for Miss Oklahoma. So I hold that. And with that, during this year that I have held that title, I have built 4 partnerships with different adoption agencies, including my own. And I have been able to serve over 7 organizations that are in the local area and just help them further their mission of advocating for kids in foster care and providing resources for them. But all while doing it, I work 40 hours a week. And so I will tell you, it was a hard adjustment, but truly, Brian Serber is probably the best boss that I could have asked for in this position, because he is a true leader in understanding that, like, your growth isn't just at work, it's outside of work as well. And he knows how important like that time off of work is for me to grow as an individual. So all of my weekends are booked. I will tell you they have been booked from January, and then my next free week is after the week of Miss Oklahoma. So my weekends are booked after hours. I usually have some kind of prep or appearance, or today I'm dropping off buckets for Citizens Caring for Children to collect items for their foster families that they have. And so I think, honestly, to sum it all up, if you want to, you will. You will make the time for things that are important to you. And so I do all of that while still getting a good amount of sleep, which is awesome.
Where's this woman's cape?
I don't
know. Seriously. And it has not always been that way, but I think it's just really, 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 what are your priorities? Like focusing on you as an individual. What are your priorities right now? And what do you want to make time for? And so there's sacrifices I've had to give up to be able to hold the title and to continue down the path I want to, and to be good at my job and be good after. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because this season to me is so special. I'm being poured into at work, and then I get to pour into others after work. Like I said, it helps tremendously when you have a boss who's willing to work with you and help you. And Brian has been so kind to kind of mentor me in the topics of drugs in Oklahoma, so that whenever I step on that stage at Miss Oklahoma, I'm fully prepared to answer questions or direct them where they should look for those answers. Mm-hmm. Because the last thing I want to do is be a competitor who is not prepared to help people find the information that they need. I want to be educated when I step on that stage and ready to represent all factors of Oklahoma. And this is obviously a really big one that's happening right now. So really, I just do it, I just Nike do it.
It's good because I get to know a lot more about you during this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
So much more.
I mean, obviously, we were in orientation together. Shout out to the January group. Yeah, that was start of the year.
Work.
Oh, please.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, honestly, like it has been a little hard. Like it's just, you got to find that work-life balance, because for me, it was kind of hard to, at first, like be as open at work as I was outside of work, if that makes sense, because I was working, but I was also so excited to volunteer on the weekends and get involved in like adoption stuff that I'm really passionate about. But I've learned in the past couple of weeks that I can mesh the two really beautifully, and that people here, I can advocate just as much at work for kids and foster care as I do outside of it, and I don't think you have to keep everything separate in your life. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I think that those things can coincide, and you can bring who you are on the outside and what's important to you into work, and still carry your morals as you work. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
it does. But if you don't mind me asking, and I don't want to get too personal if you don't want to,
okay.
But my cousin adopted a little boy from one of her classes. She was a teacher for America, and she met him in one of her classes, and he needed a home, and she adopted him. So what actually is your adoption story? Because every adoption has a meaningful story.
Get the details.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, my story, it's so fun. I like to say that my story isn't the standard, but it should be. Oh. I have had a really, really beautiful experience with being adopted. And I want you to know first and foremost that I have a deep understanding that this is not the experience that a lot of people have, but it should be. My birth mother, her name was Tammy. She got pregnant at 16 years old with my brother, Jonathan. And she knew immediately that adoption was what she wanted for the child, because she knew at the time that she was physically and emotionally incapable of raising a child at that moment. So she made a plan for Jonathan and got connected with the Gladney Center for Adoption in Texas, where she then got to pick out who she wanted to place Jonathan with. And so I think that's really special that she got to have the say in who her child got to be raised by. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately she picked my parents, David and Kathy. They lived in Oklahoma. She was from Texas. Gladney did a beautiful job of connecting the two and creating a sort of communication. So it was a closed adoption, but Tammy and my parents could contact each other through their social worker in Gladney. Mm. So my parents and Jonathan were just creating a beautiful family for 3 years, and Tammy experienced another pregnancy, and it was me. And she was a little bit older at the time, so really, honestly, could have raised me, but decided that, you know, she really trusted my parents, and it would have been a beautiful thing in her mind for Jonathan and I to be raised together. And so she placed me with my half-brother in our adoptive family. And so she created our family for us, which is just so sweet. And now having a relationship with her has just been so, I mean, it just makes my heart so full knowing that she is the reason why my family is together. And the trials that she had to face and that she overcame were just unimaginable, but it created such a beautiful family from it. And so we had a closed adoption throughout that whole time. So when Jonathan graduated high school at 18, through my parents' permission, Tammy reached out to him through a little graduation present in a letter and said, if you have an interest in meeting me, don't feel any pressure at all. Like, you do not have to do this, but if you're curious, just know I'm here. And I remember Jonathan driving to Texas and meeting Tammy, driving back, and I'm like, okay, tell me everything. And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, that was a little rude. Why?
Like, dang, you're holding out on me?
Yeah, and
Classic siblings, no?
he said, I want you to experience for yourself if you want to.
That's good.
That's sweet.
Yes, in the
Turns
moment,
out
was
sweet.
not happy, but later on, I truly respect him for doing that. And so when I turned 18, the same thing happened. Tammy reached out to me with a present for high school graduation in a letter that just basically said the same thing. It is up to you what you want to do. And honestly, it took me a couple months to write back just because I'm like, where do you even start?
Yeah.
Right? It was hard for me at that age to understand that this was my birth mom. So like our DNA was the same. And that was hard for me to truly understand. So it took me a while to write a letter back, but I did. And she wrote one back. And then I said, okay, listen, let's meet. Like, let's just do this. I don't think there's ever going to be a right time in my head. So let's just meet. And so Jonathan came with me, and I met Tammy in Broken Bow. And I was so nervous that we pulled up, and Jonathan said, okay, let's go. And I said, no, turn the car around, please. I don't want to get out. I don't want to do this. And he was like, no, just trust me, do it. I'm like, Jonathan, what am I going to say? Like, this is so weird. And he was like, get out of the car. And I did. And we hugged. I saw Tammy. I hugged her. And we didn't stop talking for 7 hours. And it was very, very beautiful to have that moment and realize that, oh, my gosh, we're so similar, and I've never met you before.
Do y'all look alike?
Oh, yes. We look alike. We laugh alike. Our humor is the same. And I was like, whoa, like nature versus nurture. That's weird.
That is interesting. I feel like humor in particular is also a little bit more learned than some things.
I
Like, your laugh is gonna
know.
be,
I know.
of
It
course,
was
like,
awesome.
That's how vocal cords are, but you know,
It was
that's
great.
interesting.
So now, after that, she reconnected with my parents, and then she introduced us to her kids. So she's married now and has 3 kids who are my 3 half siblings. So I got to meet them, and now every year we have Thanksgiving together.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
it's just kind of
that's
like a blended
amazing.
family. There's no family tree. It's just like a bush. It's just a
Bush full of
beautiful
different
blend.
flowers.
It's okay.
Right.
Mine looks
And
the same,
so
different flowers.
I remember one time we went to the beach on vacation, and someone was like, so and we were like, just don't even
We're
try
all
to figure it
just
out.
family.
Yeah.
We're all
Like,
family.
we all just love each other so much.
Look,
and
they're
that's it.
mine.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. They're
Everybody is. So Tammy and 2 of my siblings will be attending Miss Oklahoma this year. And they love,
Yay.
yeah, they love to come up there and watch. And so they're all younger, which is really sweet because I didn't grow up being a big sister, so now I get to have that experience. But like I said at the beginning of all of this, my story is not the standard, but it should be. There is a huge respect between my parents and my birth mom. There is a respect, there's love, there is selflessness on both sides, and I think that's why it works so perfect, is because we have clear and honest communication, and we respect the roles that each of us hold in our lives. There's never been a moment of like a power struggle or making someone feel sad or confused about what their role is in my life. I have my mom and dad, and I have my birth mom, Tammy, and those are very different. So ever since, my parents raised me being proud to be adopted. And I think that's the kicker here is not everybody's story is the same, but also none of us get to pick the circumstance that we're born into. I did not get to pick that I was adopted. I was born into it. And it was kind of up to me what I decided to do with that knowledge and the route that I wanted to go. I could have easily built up anger. I could have easily built up hurt, but I chose not to. And honestly, growing up, a lot of kids were confused why I wasn't sad I was adopted. And it provided beautiful opportunities for me to talk about how, it's my story and I get to decide what it means to me. And so now, being Miss Bricktown and being on this platform of advocating for adoption, I kind of get to tell kids that, there are some things that you don't get to pick about your life, but you get to pick how you respond to them, and you get to pick how they affect you. And so, not every story is as smooth as mine, but it's also had its challenges. Tammy had to go through a lot. My parents had to go through a lot. But we've all chosen for adoption to leave an impact on our life full of love than anything else. So
that is a really beautiful story.
It is great. It's so good. It's my favorite story ever.
But I will say, I think that generally your story is very inspiring. The whole thing about Miss Oklahoma, about your story of adoption. I didn't grow up really thinking about pageantry as something, it wasn't really prevalent in my life. Except for when I hit college, I had some friends who were doing it, but before that, it really wasn't something that we ever thought about. One thing I do really think is amazing about it is the whole finding yourself, finding your confidence, being able to have your own opinions, but being able to be gracious to those opinions that are different from yours.
Right.
It sounds like an amazing experience, and in retrospect, I think that I should have been a little more open-minded when I was younger to maybe try some of those things, because I was the kid who did not do that. But
that was me. For you to be as young as you are and have such grace towards people, that's amazing.
Thank you.
And we work together, and it's man, that's insane. How just hearing your story, it warms my heart.
Oh, thank you.
You're amazing.
Thanks.
You are amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, but thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to our podcast, and we look forward to seeing you all next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.